What's one internal battle you've been avoiding? Fear, shame, guilt, whatever you might be battling right now, just name it. Failure can be an outcome, but how you respond decides if you rise or retreat. There's so many things I've been through in my life. I don't want you to go through some of the battles I had to go through. I want you to thrive more.
His message is what needs to be heard.
I think it's still something that should be talked about more.
But it always starts off on how we handle the battle between our ears. When we don't address the battles going on, we lose connection, we lose time, we lose people. I was driving home from Blockbuster Video and I received a phone call. The person said, "Michael, your mom's in the hospital. She attempted to commit suicide." I froze in that moment. And I know I'm not the only person that things have happened to in this room, but a lot of us think that we need to hide what things have happened. I've been trained to hide fear. I've been trained to hide shame. But as I look back at that moment and I look back at some of the other events in my life, I realized that I needed some type of system, some type of approach. And that's when I came up with the Failure Fuels Growth framework.
Michael is very insightful and inspirational.
I'm in law enforcement, so I love acronyms. The Failure Fuels Growth framework is very simple. The F stands for face the moment. The U stands for understand the impact. The E stands for equip yourself. The L stands for lead with intention. And the S stands for sustain the shift.
Great leader and a great person for actually being able to talk about it.
This framework, this winning the battle between the ears, this isn't just a leadership framework, it's a lifeline. We can't help people understand their own why if our own battles, we don't know what's going on. Before you can lead anybody, before you can build relationships, before you can develop yourself, you have to look at what you have going on internally. When you can win in here, you can win out there. My name is Michael Laidler, and I believe failure fuels growth. Thank you. One of the moments that I hid so far in the back of my mind was something that happened in my childhood. And I didn't really realize that it happened to me. But when I did, I was like, oh crap. This was a foundational moment in my life that I never addressed. I can remember the day I received this phone call. I was driving home from my second job, Blockbuster Video. Anybody ever heard of Blockbuster Video? I know you have. Yeah, you probably have too. I was driving home from Blockbuster Video and I received a phone call from a family member and they said, "Your mother's in the hospital." I said, "What do you mean?" They said she attempted to commit suicide. I froze in that moment when I heard that. What do you mean in my mind that she attempted to commit suicide? Then I started to have this fear of, am I going to lose my mother? Am I going to have the ability to help her out? Am I going to be able to be the man that I think I should be? I went to go see her at the hospital, and that fear increased, that tension that I had only rose. It didn't lower. I get to the hospital, I see her, a complete shell of herself. Everything inside of me is yelling, I'm scared, I'm nervous. I don't want to be seeing her like this. But I knew, and I knew externally, I had to look brave. I had to show that this was not impacting me in any way. So rather than address that moment and understand what was going on, I took that very important part of my life in my childhood and I just buried it away because I never wanted anybody to see externally how I was struggling internally. And I know I'm not the only person that things have happened to in this room, especially things that have happened in your childhood. But a lot of us think that we need to hide what things have happened. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're that person in this room right now that is struggling, or something that's happened in your life, or something that you think that has caused you to lose your worth, don't think like that. Change that perspective. And when I learned to change that perspective, it changed a lot about how I did things. Now, I'm gonna be transparent on this part. Just because this happened in my childhood, and just because I now have this Failure F.U.E.L.S growth framework, this didn't happen right there in that moment. This took me over 20 years. And there's a lot of things in my life that happened after this that I now realize today that has impacted me. For me, I wish I would have heard this next tool a lot sooner. And the tool that I had to develop and learn, and that's part of the first letter in Failure F.U.E.L.S growth, which is face the moment, was name it or tame it. You have to name it to tame it in order to recognize that you have something going on. There was a study done by UCLA that actually said that when you name things that have happened to you, it helps you recover from them faster. If you want, go check out the study yourself. But when you see it and when you think about it, a lot of times when we hear people say, you have to at least recognize what happened to move forward, it is true. That's why this part of my life, this battle, the very first one that I recognized was a landmark in my life, that's why I had to address that, because it was impacting me in many ways. I even wrote a book back in 2022 called Greatness Beyond the Badge. In that book, what happened to me in my childhood with my mother is not in there. You know why? Because I never named that battle. I never even addressed it. But after I wrote the book and I started to think about other things that I was missing, I had to go back deeper in my life, because I thought all of my stress, I thought all the things that I had been through up to that moment, up until 2022, started when I put the uniform on. Now, don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. A lot of things that has happened to me in my life, over 20 years of being in the law enforcement industry, has caused some stress. Statistically, we go through 178 critical incidents throughout our career in comparison to a person that's non-law enforcement that goes through 2 or 3 critical incidents. So I have been through a few things in my life. But the one of the biggest things that had happened to me, I never named it. So how do we tie this to leadership? How do we tie this to being better? As leaders, as people that want to make an impact, as people that have others relying on us, we can never lead fully if we're not addressing the things that are going on with us. And when you're not leading yourself to understanding what's going on with yourself, it's tough for you to realize how important this particular technique is. Now, just because you name it doesn't mean it goes away. Let me be transparent with everybody in here. Just because you name it doesn't mean it goes away. But for you to move, to start the process, you have to at least know there's a problem. You have to at least know that there's a starting point that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, like I said, I didn't always know this was a battle that I was dealing with. And when fear impacts us, when fear takes over, when fear is always in the back of our minds and it's not being addressed, something else comes into play. Something else jumps in our mind that we don't always think about, and it's shame. Shame creeps in when we least expect it. Shame comes to the forefront because fear has never been addressed. And the reason why shame jumps in there is because we can't conquer what we're not willing to confront. I'm going to repeat this for you guys. You can't conquer what you're not willing to confront. And maybe for a few of those that didn't hear me the first time, because I know I speak a little fast, you can't conquer what you're not willing to confront. And when you don't do that, you allow shame to jump in. You allow shame to take over. And I know how that happens. For you to be the best leader to your team, to be the best leader to your family, to be the best leader to anybody around you, you have to lead yourself. And part of leading yourself is understanding how resiliency plays a factor. Why is resiliency so important for leaders? Part 3. You know, as I've created and developed this series, it's been such a pleasure to do that I even created this in multiple languages because I wanted to reach more audiences. If you didn't have the opportunity, go ahead and look at the rest of my YouTube page and check out the Spanish version and some of the other versions that have been dubbed, just to kind of highlight the kind of reach you're trying to get. My name is Michael Laidler, and you are watching a 3-part series on why it's important for leaders to focus on resiliency and some of the strategies and tips that I use each and every day to help me overcome some things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Now, in parts 1 and 2 of the video, we talked about these 4 areas. We talked about persevering through the unexpected, effectively dealing with change, adaptability, and stress management. If you didn't get a chance to watch videos 1 and 2, go through my timeline on YouTube and take a look at those and refresh yourself. Today, we're going to finish out the series with 3 more reasons and 3 more strategies on why it's important to have resilience as a leader. If you didn't get the chance, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification button in order for you to see any other video that comes up after this series and videos coming forward. Let's jump on in. Why is resiliency so important for leaders? It's important because people expect it out of you. First and foremost, it's literally something that in my leadership role over the last 20 years that I realized if I didn't have resiliency as a leader, if I couldn't display what I had going on, it didn't just limit my abilities, but it limited the people around me. And as I continue to develop myself as a leader, I realized that I had to do certain things. I had to achieve certain measurements in myself in order to be that leader that people needed. A lot of times we talk about different leadership concepts like servant leadership and putting everybody first. But for you to be the best leader to your team, to be the best leader to your family, to be the best to be the best leader to anybody around you, you have to lead yourself. And part of leading yourself is understanding how resiliency plays a factor. Now, the 5th thing we're going to talk about, the first thing on this video, is when you have high levels of resiliency and you're building up who you're trying to be as a leader, it allows you to perform at a higher level. And when you perform at a higher level, it helps build everybody else around you. And how do you do that? I'm probably going to blow your mind with this. It's train yourself. Go out there and find videos, books, quick help guidelines, social media posts that literally help you perform. When you want to get to that higher level, when you want to achieve more, you have to go get it. You can't wait for someone to just give you knowledge. You can't wait for someone to say, hey, I'm going to send you to this training course. You have to go out there and retrieve it. And nowadays, in 2025 and going forward, there's no reason why we can't go out there and get more information. There's no reason why we can't go out there and research more data. There's no reason that you can't do that. In order for you to be able to increase your resiliency and understand how important it is, you have to perform at a higher level. But the way you do that is you take ownership. You take the responsibility. You take the understanding that if you don't do it for yourself, nobody else will. The second part of this video, as well as the sixth strategy or tip on why resiliency is so important, is when you display more resiliency, when you create more resiliency, you have people, employees, friends, family that are just more engaged in what they're doing each and every day. And there's a study that Gallup runs almost every year. I can't remember how long they've been doing that study, but on average, it says in an organization based on their studies, only 34% of people are actively engaged in what they do. Yes, pause it. If not, rewind it. Yes, 34%. Let's just say you have 100 employees. Only 34 of them are actively engaged. The other folks, the other 60 or so, are either disengaged or they're just there. It's one or the other. As a leader, as you build your resiliency, the more people you get engaged, the better it can be. How do you do that? Well, we already talked about in the prior part of this video how to perform at a higher level, you should train yourself. Well, let's keep it simple. You, if you need to zoom in on yourself, go ahead. You need to be more engaged. I know that sounds very easy, but if you're not excited, if you're not passionate, if you don't have that emotional level of attachment to what you're doing, then the people around you are not going to do it. People are people. And I say that because a lot of us are emotional. We have a connection to people. And if we see our leader not engaged, if we don't see our leader participating in events, if we don't see our leader trying to better themselves, then we're going to say, you know what? I can easily be disengaged. I don't have to be active in what I do because the person in front of me is not doing it. So when you're looking at resiliency, you're looking at engagement. In order to increase that, in order to be ready for things that come up, you have to be active in what you're doing for yourself. You have to be active in whatever environment that is, whether it's your family, the organization, church, whatever you're doing, you have to find a level of excitement to be doing what you do. Now, if you're an organization, you're not excited about it, I know what I would suggest for you to do. I'm going to let you figure that out on your own. But if you're not excited about what you're doing, then think about how you're impacting everybody else. And when you go through those tough times, because you will, when you're not engaged, the people around you are going to be less likely to be engaged because they're following their leader. They're following the person that they're looking at each and every day as a role model, as a mentor, sometime as a parent, as a big brother, big sister. And if you don't have that level of energy that they're looking for or that they need to overcome whatever they're trying to overcome, it's going to be tough. So that's, once again, that's why it's important for you to be engaged. That's why it's important for you to be ready, because your passion will carry over to what they're trying to do. And the seventh reason on why it's important, well, the third reason on this video, but the seventh based on this series, is when you have high resiliency and you're actually focused on it and you're using it as a skill rather than a liability, there's just better relations between the leaders and the people that follow them. When resiliency is created in a sense that it's important to everybody feels like they can work together. People feel like they can be vulnerable around you. And how do you create that? I just said it. Be vulnerable. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care what level you are, you're still a person. If I took away that leadership title that you have, or the leadership title that you're seeking, you're still a person. I don't care what level anybody has got to on this planet. They are still people. And because you're people, or because you're a person, there's been some level of vulnerability that you have to be able to show. There's something that you've been through that A, you couldn't control, or that was rough. Be willing to share things that have happened in your life. I've heard so many people, and you know what? No, I'm not going to even say that. I've given so many presentations that as I realized the importance of vulnerability and I increased that throughout my presentations, it made them so much better because people just saw me as just a person. When you're on stage or you have on these bars or you have this impressive title or you have that corner office, vulnerability is what makes that connection between the leader and the member. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be stern in your decisions. That doesn't mean that you can't be that person that has to make the bold decisions, but you can't just look like you're a wall. You can't look like you're a brick. You can't look like you're a statue. You have to make that connection with your people. You have to make that connection with the people that are following you. Because if you don't, then it's going to be tough when times are increasing in a bad way to have that level of resiliency out of everybody. So when you're trying to build that leader-member relationship and you're trying to just develop the people around you through the concept of resiliency and what you can do, vulnerability is key. Share that story, offer something that's happened to you, and just be a person. Just be who you're meant to be when it comes to sharing, because at the end of the day, that's what we need. I hope you enjoyed this series on why resiliency is important for leaders. It was 7 different strategies and tips that I was looking at right now, and I was like, you know what? With all the different times, all the different things we have going on in our society, and I mean, things are always going on, but I thought about what could people use right now as leaders to help their teams grow? What can they help their people be to become more productive and to increase everything around them? And I was like, you know what? The concept of resiliency and dealing with tough times and just having different strategies and different approaches is extremely important, because it doesn't matter where you're at in your life. It doesn't matter what group of people you're around. We all go through something, and just having a few tips and strategies to overcome some of these tough days is very important. And as you realize that for yourself, what you're going to also understand and realize is the people around you are also going to benefit for some of these tactics that you're starting to implement right now. Thank you for watching. If you didn't get a chance, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. If you like the series, please share it. If you didn't like the series, just forget about it. I'm just kidding. But I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear what you feel or what you believe. If you think I missed a few steps or something like that, or you say, you know what, Michael, I think you should add this to the next group of videos that talks about resiliency or tough times as a leader, please reach out. You know, you can find me through email, any social medias, comment on the YouTube video, whatever that looks like for you. But I definitely want to build these videos to help you grow as people, leaders, men, women, brothers, sisters, mother, fathers, whatever that looks like. Because the more we grow each other, the more we can all develop. Thank you for your time. You have a great day.